Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Mahoney and I'm the author of the Guardian of the Opera trilogy. Book 1 is out, Retelling the Phantom of the Opera. Book 2, continuing the story, will be out in September. And today I'm here to talk about one of the most hotly debated questions in Phantom fandom. Should Christine and the Phantom be together as a couple? The short answer, in my opinion, is no. But if you've ever talked to me about the Phantom or probably seen any of my previous videos, you know that I always discuss the long answer. So here we go. Now, the reason I'm even getting into this is that I wrote a retelling. I have a sequel coming out. And I can say from the research I've done into what is already out there that probably a good 95% plus of retellings and sequels of the Phantom story are about giving the Phantom a happier ending. And I would definitely also say that a solid majority are about showing that actually Christine and the Phantom were always meant to be together. She is his true love and he is hers, and either they get together at the end or we find out that they should have. So, spoilers, if you read all the way through my trilogy, it is about giving the Phantom a happier ending. It's not about getting him together with Christine. So, why is that? So before I get flamed in the comments, do I think it's possible for the Phantom and Christine to be a good couple? And yes, I do think they can be written in a way that would make them work as a couple. But that is different than saying that I think they are a good couple or that I overall think they belong together. Which brings me to what I think is one of the fundamental complications of even talking about this question. I've seen debates go back and forth online where the question is raised to a group of Phantom fans: do you think the Phantom and Christine are a good couple? And one camp is saying, no, he's violent and dangerous and terrible and she should not be with him. And the other camp is saying, oh yes, he's misunderstood and complicated and she really loves him and he really loves her and they should be together. And the thing of it is, possibly both of them are right, because no one's defining their terms. And that, I think, is the complication. When you talk about more the Phantom than Christine, although both a little bit, when you say the Phantom, you are not necessarily talking about the same character. I can tell you that the Phantom is sweet and gentle and misunderstood, or I can tell you that he is unstable and unhinged and violent. And both of those will be true because I am talking about Earl Carpenter's Phantom, who was gentle and misunderstood, and Ben Forster's Phantom, who was unhinged and dangerous. That's two different men playing the Phantom in two different productions of the Andrew Lloyd Webber play. Very different characters. And that's just within the same play. There are also so many other versions, books, movies, other plays, that all show the Phantom a little bit differently. So let me define what I'm talking about when I say I don't think they're a good couple. Do I think anyone really should date the Gaston Leroux Phantom, the Lon Chaney Phantom, the Claude Rains Phantom, the Herbert Lom Phantom, the David Stoller Phantom, the pretty much any version of the Andrew Lloyd Webber Phantom, including Gerard Butler, the Phantom in Love Never Dies, even the Susan Kay Phantom? And the answer is going to be no. Oh, or the Angel of the Opera Phantom, or the Canary Trainer Phantom. Definitely not the Canary Trainer Phantom. No. No one should date almost any of these men. Susan Kay's Phantom you might be able to work with. The Charles Dance Phantom I didn't mention because I think you might be able to work with him. Both of them need to, they're from the wrong time period to be in therapy, but if they could be in therapy, it would really help them. And they need to work on themselves a lot, and then maybe there would be potential. Anybody else? No. do not date these men, because all of these versions, the Phantom is violent. He is killing people. He's holding Christine captive. He's dropping a chandelier on a crowded theater. He's lying to Christine about being an angel of music. I mean, there are other things, but that is enough. This is not someone that's going to be really healthy to date. So, all of that said, now the question is, why is this even a question? It seems obvious when you talk about it like that. And I think that brings us to what the internet, well, it's a particular trope that the internet tells me is called the Draco in leather pants trope. It's a Harry Potter reference, where fans look at a character who is a villain in his, I think it's usually his, original story, book, movie, whatever, and downplay the villainy. And play, we say, oh, his villainous qualities are not so bad, and maybe he didn't really kill people, and then also play up the sympathetic and potentially romantic aspects of the character. And the Phantom in almost every version does have sympathetic aspects. I'm not going to say he doesn't. Even in Gaston Leroux, the original, he does. But boy, there's villainous aspects too. So it's when fans look at this and make that kind of split and make the character feel much more sympathetic and romantic than he originally was in the version. And I'm not judging anybody for that. I do that. I mean, other side, my Phantom is not killing people, and he's not nearly as scary as any of these Phantoms I've been naming. I try to still give him some edge. He's still complicated. He's still living under an opera house. He still has a whole lot of self-loathing issues because of the face and the mask and the whole thing. I mean, if you go too far, he stops being the Phantom in any way, shape, or form. But I very consciously am trying to make him a Phantom who is not a terrible person to date, if you can put it that way, who is a more sympathetic character. So I think it's fine to do that, but I think it's important to recognize that we're doing that, both so that we don't get into these intense debates online where we're really talking about two different characters because we're not explaining what the Phantom in our head looks like compared to the Phantom that the other person is talking about, who may look quite different in their head, who knows. And also because this doesn't work in life. You can't just sort of wipe away and ignore the terrible things that other people do and turn them into a nicer person that way. So if you ever find yourself doing that, PSA, please don't, and please think about that, and please do not take the Phantom as a model for a romantic relationship, because he is not a good one. Unless it's because your boyfriend writes music, and then that's fine. But for really any other reason, he is not a good model. Okay, PSA done. So, let's go back to the original question. Would the Phantom and Christine make a good couple? And my answer was no, and now I've clarified that it's at least in part because of the Phantom's terrible villainy. And let's assume that you can wipe that away, as I said I did in my book. I'm creating a universe where the Phantom in my universe is less scary and violent. Okay, well, hopefully he's not really violent at all, because you don't want to date someone who's a little bit violent either. But anyway, who's a more appropriate, sympathetic, romantic lead. In that circumstance, do I think that the Phantom and Christine are a good couple? Still no. Because I actually have problems with Christine, which I think most people do not. I think I'm more unusual with that. But I look at all of these Christines, and I don't think they're great for the Phantom, even of the most sympathetic version of the Phantom. So I don't feel like I actually need to talk about many different Christines, because Christine just doesn't change that much. Unlike the Phantom, she's very similar across all of these versions I mentioned, and the things that I see as a problem tend to be there. So Christine always takes the Phantom's mask off. That's a problem. I mean, that's a serious invasion of his privacy, boundaries, personal space. I mean, that's a problem. And if you have a very villainous phantom that she's afraid of, or, I mean, there are situations where I don't actually condemn her for doing that because of who the phantom character is. But if you make the phantom sympathetic, trying to make him a good romantic lead, now it's becoming pretty awful that she takes his mask off like that. You have a problem there. Christine's tend to be afraid of the phantom, which usually there's justification, but if she stays afraid when he's not so villainous anymore, well, now it doesn't make sense. So you'd have to make her less afraid, I guess. Christine's tend to be very drawn to Raoul, and they're generally in some kind of romantic relationship with Raoul. So not so much interested in the phantom. Either she's into Raoul, or she's like into the phantom but dating Raoul, and that's, I don't know, things get weird there. Basically, the fundamental point here, I don't think Christine understands or accepts the phantom. If you assume that he is the nicest possible phantom, but you keep Christine the way she has always been, she does not seem to be able to cope with everything that is the phantom, and you can't take away all of it. He still has the face, he still has the mask, he's still living under an opera house, or you're talking about a character who is not the Phantom of the Opera anymore. And Christine doesn't seem to be able to handle any of that in any of these versions. So you'd have to fundamentally change Christine too into someone who can handle whatever complications, we'll call them that, remain in your more sympathetic phantom. So yes, they can be a good couple, but you'd have to fundamentally alter both of their characters compared to most versions of the story to make them a good couple. So I'm sure people have done that. I'm sure there are stories that make that work and probably even still make it feel like it's the Phantom of the Opera in some way, despite that level of change. And that is great. That is not the direction I went in my story. I actually took Christine a different direction as well. I did change her character, but not to make her into a good love interest for the Phantom. I took what she's doing, and I didn't change most of what she's doing, but I changed some of the motivation. But that was in another video. And yeah, I think the question really is, are the Phantom and Christine a good couple? Not most versions of them. And you really have to change those versions to make it work. But if you do, great. If you've read a version where it works, great. I have no problem with other people telling those stories and enjoying those stories. But if people ask me if I think they're a good couple, my short answer is still gonna be no. So thank you for watching. Don't flame me in the comments if you think differently. I accept your views as well. If you'd like to hear more about my thoughts on the Phantom or about my book, my blog is marveloustales.com. I also have other videos that discuss other Phantom questions. So I hope you'll enjoy reading or watching, and don't forget, my version of it, Nocturne, is now available on Amazon if you'd like to check it out.